Congratulations to all of you for a number of things. The first thing I want to congratulate you on is that you just took the longest walk that one can take on Williams campus. That's as big as the campus is, and you just took the longest walk. So congratulations on having accomplished that. Yeah. So again, I'm Rob White, Director of Parent and Family Programs, and I am here to tell you first that international students and first-generation students are a vital and growing part of the Williams community. 1 in 11 of our new students are from a country beyond the United States, and 1 in 5 is first in their family to go to college. So your students are among the very best of our undergraduates. They improve our community while they're students among us, and they go on to do wonderful things in their lives beyond Williams. And they wouldn't be here without your love and your wisdom and your support and your guidance. So thank you from all of us for the amazing work that you've done. I have a couple of housekeeping details. I believe that we will be having refreshments in the main lobby that you came in on a little bit later on this afternoon. After we end the afternoon session at 5:15, you'll be joining us for a picnic dinner with your students under the trees near the big library. After dinner, you will give your students a big hug goodbye, and they will go off to the rest of their Williams orientation programs and to their undergraduate lives as Williams students. And all of us will go across the street to Goodrich Hall to have some dessert and some consolation. So come over that. Finally, and I've mentioned this before, and I'll be here all afternoon, although I'll be in and out of this particular space. If you need a ride back to the airport, the bus station, or the train station, all in Albany tomorrow, please let us know as soon as possible this afternoon. I think we're all set with everybody, but just in case there's someone that isn't in that situation, come and talk to me as soon as possible. So we have a wonderful program this afternoon. My colleagues from all corners of campus are here to answer all of your questions. Everything from safety to health to wellness to spiritual life to what's this thing with the liberal arts education? What's that all about? Would someone talk about that? This is meant to be a conversation. We're here to answer your questions, and there's no such thing as a silly question, so please feel free to speak up. And if you have a question that you'd rather share with someone individually, most of our speakers will actually be here during the breaks, or at least during one of the breaks, and you'll be able to catch up with them individually then. So first up, our college chaplain, Valerie Bailey Fischer, and our Director of Integrative Wellbeing Services, Wendy Adam. I'm going to turn it over to them, and would ask you to join me in welcoming them to the floor.
Si alguien tiene alguna pregunta en español, la pueden hacer en el momento que los hablantes están haciendo, y si no, a la hora que nos reunamos para algún aperitivo, pueden hacerme las preguntas y yo puedo traducir por ustedes. Solamente en español.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. My name is the Reverend Valerie Bailey Fischer, and I'm the chaplain to the college. And I'm happy to be here, part of the welcoming team. We are so glad you're here, and we are very happy to have your students with us for the next 4 years. So we're here to share share about what the chaplain's office and what is the chaplain's office and the services that it provides. The chaplain's office is here serving the entire Williams community, faculty, staff, and students, and particularly students. And although we have chaplains representing 3 of the major faith groups, I'm an Episcopal priest and also Protestant chaplain. Rabbi Seth Wax is the Jewish chaplain, and Imam Sharif Rosen is the Muslim chaplain. And we will be looking for a new Catholic chaplain in this upcoming year, and we'll have an interim coordinator for the Catholic ministry. So if any of you are Catholic and you have any questions, do talk to me, and we will get you information about Mass times and things like that. Now, the key is we are like the pastoral support for everybody, regardless of faith or no faith at all. Your students are amazing and wonderful, but every so often they just need some support. And sometimes they just need someone to say, great job, or someone to listen to a joke. And I can't tell you how many times people just come just to tell the joke or something funny. We also have a wonderful group of student leaders in the religious groups who themselves are just impressive peer mentors and support for your students. And in many ways, some of your children may become support for the others. So we do this through a variety of programs. A lot of the programs we do with other offices. We also have religious services for Jewish, Muslim, and Christian students. We have a growing Hindu community, and they are, I think they're in their second or third year. And we also have a very active Zen Buddhist community. We also have a group that's known as Williams Secular, where they do not identify with any particular faith, but they are finding meaning in their own ways. And so that is kind of the pantheon of our interfaith community. Our voice on campus just to encourage wellness and spiritual growth, because in many ways every journey is a spiritual journey. But we also, one of the people we partner with the most, or the office we partner with the most, is IWS. We chaplains, we think of ourselves as first responders, because the way we operate, we're on the ground, we're in the coffee shops, we're sometimes guest speakers of classes, we're everywhere providing support. But sometimes the students need something more than just a pat on the back or someone to listen to. And so one of the offices we partner with the most is IWS, and turn over to Wendy.
So good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. I'm Wendy Adam. I'm the Director of Integrative Wellbeing Services here, and in some places it might be called psychological counseling services, and other colleges maybe mental health services. Here at Williams, we are really focused on working with and on behalf of the whole student, so we have kind of developed a whole repertoire of different services and ways of reaching out to students that meet the heart, mind, body, and spirit needs of each of the students. So the name of our office is even different. It's Integrative Wellbeing Services. So on behalf of my counterpart at Health Services, Deb Flynn, she's a nurse practitioner over the medical services piece, we together lead a team of folks who are absolutely committed to ensuring the health and well-being of all the students and just a healthy community here at Williams. So as I was thinking about how what I might say in 7 minutes could possibly be helpful to you all on this incredibly important day, I think I first wanted to just pause and say that I can only imagine that what you all are going through is a pretty complicated set of thoughts and feelings and just wishes for your son or daughter, or maybe thinking back about how quickly the time has gone, or how you can't believe the finances all worked out, or just that the travel connections worked out. For some of you, this is the very first time anyone in your entire family has come to a college and embarked on this journey. And I can only imagine the countless jobs and efforts and courage it took for you to get here. And so some of you are in that experience. Some of you are in the experience of having traveled across the world to come to a college here in the United States, and you're about to have goodbye hugs with your child. And so I want to pause before I jump into all the services to say that the complicated experiences that you all may be having on this really incredibly exciting and important day, and also perhaps terrifying or sad or just unbelievable day, that is all such an important part of being human. And it is that very complicated set of thoughts and feelings and reactions and emotions that gives us the richest life as human beings. And so here at Williams, what we try to teach students through health and well-being services, and also in partnership with the Chaplain's office and our Davis Center Multicultural Center and the Dean's office and all of Student Life Services, is that part of becoming a healthy adult is cultivating the knowledge and skills that you need to handle just this kind of complicated day where you couldn't be prouder or happier, and at the same time you're perhaps worried or just sad that your son or daughter is going to stay tonight and you may not be. So to let you know, we have such an incredibly rich and diverse group of staff and our team, as well as in health services, who are here to meet everything from primary health care needs, vaccinations, dealing with allergies and injuries or questions about physical care on the health services side, to on our side of the house, integrative well-being services, looking at providing services for psychological counseling, so traditional one-on-one therapy. We provide unlimited access to therapists here on campus. We have a very diverse team. We now have actually 7 clinicians of color, 2 international clinicians on our team, and we're really diverse in just about every single way that you can be as a team. So we provide one-on-one therapy, no cost to students. You can come in, they can come in by appointment. They could see the same therapist once a week for all 4 years they're here, which is unheard of in most colleges and universities. There's usually a cap, or a lot of places refer out. We have a very robust team, so we provide all those services here. We have a psychiatrist in-house who can manage if there's any psychiatric medical needs for assessments or ongoing medication care. We also provide 24-hour on-call therapy, so on-call therapists. So if there's a student is experiencing some kind of an intense need overnight, they can call after hours in partnership with Campus Safety. Dave Boyer's here and we'll be talking to you, and get one of our on-call therapists on the phone. We also offer a whole variety of different outreach groups to develop skills like mindfulness and good practices like self-compassion that can help students cope better with stress and also just make healthy choices for themselves. So in addition to trying to offer services if they are struggling, we are also at the same time putting a whole bunch of efforts into offering lots of different groups and workshops to help your students learn how best to take care of themselves in every way. We are also launching this year for the very first time, through the generous support of one of our donors, an additional service called Talkspace, which is an online therapy service. In addition to everything that I just said, students can confidentially access an online messaging therapy service that has over 5,000 therapists nationwide, and they speak over 40 languages. And they can access that from anywhere. And later on in their Williams journey, perhaps your son or daughter may do the travel abroad programs or any other kind of summer type programs. They can access that even 12 months out of the year, again, no cost to students. So what I'm trying to say, kind of perhaps in a laundry list fashion, is that things are going to come up for your son or daughter while they're here. We expect them to. Right? This is new. This is a time of big transitions, meeting new friends, adjusting to different cultural expectations, perhaps trying to figure out different aspects of their identity, contemplating different difficulties that we as a country and we as a globe are experiencing relative to race and to religion and to any number of different aspects of uniqueness that we bring. What I can assure you is that in addition to our team at Integrative Wellbeing Services, who are here to support your students as they contemplate those difficult things, those exciting things, and those challenging things, we are a committed team here at the college overall to working together. It may not be me who meets the need, it may not be Reverend Valerie, it may be one of our colleagues, but for sure, we are a safety net. We are kind of the guardians of your child's experience here, and very committed to making sure they have access to the resources that they need while they're here. So as you're back at home, wherever that might be, perhaps missing your child, perhaps just breathing a sigh of relief that it all actually worked out and they did it, and you're so proud of them, just know that they're not alone here. We will never be you in their lives. They will always need you in their lives more than anything. But while they're here at Williams, we are watching out for them, and we are available to them, and we are here to also answer questions for you all as they come. And together with your partnership from afar, we're going to hopefully make this an incredibly rich and rewarding and growth-filled experience for your students. So on behalf of Health and Wellness Services and our whole team, welcome to Williams.
Who has a question? Wendy, I have one. I'm sure that there's some students who go through periods where they're feeling uncomfortable at Williams, but they actually don't know how to reach out. They don't know, for instance, whether integrated well-being services would be the place to go. And they're a little bit nervous that if they came to you, that would somehow mean that they had some bigger problem than they were worried about that needed to be solved. Is there a way to sort of get them over the hump and reach out to you?
That's a great point. Well, first of all, what I can tell you is the majority, and I will say literally the statistical majority of our students utilize counseling services at some point during their Williams experience. For some different traditions or some cultures, that may sound alarming. What I can tell you is that there are so many different ways to engage with integrative well-being services that even if your family and your culture doesn't necessarily support one-on-one traditional psychological counseling, there's some other way that we can work with your student. So the first response to Rob's question, which I think is a great one, is that to the extent that you are comfortable in your family, if you hear your student talking about how they're struggling or they're alone and they don't think that, oh, they're homesick, but that's not a real reason to go see a therapist. We see students for everything from very deep-seated, long-standing mental illness, which we can handle, all the way up to, I just had a bad interaction in a chemistry class with a peer that I don't understand, and it's a short-lived, one-time thing, but I want some support with that. I tell you, we want students to come in and talk with us. We do not have some sort of a threshold where students will have to come in and be some sort of level of sickness in order to get into our services. In general, on campus, students will start to hear that most people end up going to IWS, Integrative Wellbeing Services, for some reason. We had over 60% of the most recent graduating senior class had worked with one of us, and in therapy, actually, not just even in one of our outreach groups. There is no negative connotation within our Williams experience associated with coming, because what we do, again, we are looking to build up students' capacities in every way to make healthy choices for themselves. We don't require that someone is deficient in some way and certainly not mentally ill in order to work with them. We want to teach them skills so that they can make good choices about sleep and rest and nutrition and managing stress and relationships and aspects of identity development that are crucial. We want to be in their lives. And so if you hear your student saying anything along the lines of, I need to struggle alone because I don't want people to think less of me and that sort of thing, it's a natural concern a student might have. But here at Williams, it is very much a part of the culture, which is why we are staffed at an extraordinarily high level. Many colleges, peer-like colleges, are staffed to where there's one therapist for about every 400 to 500 students. We have one therapist per 150 or a little less than that, like 140 something students, specifically because we believe in the importance of being available to students. The other thing that we have, in case your student would still not feel comfortable reaching out, 5 days a week, so Monday through Friday, and sometimes multiple times during the day, we have what are called Let's Talk sessions. These are drop-in sessions that are scheduled at various places on campus, at the Davis Center, in Paresky, the Student Center, and also in athletics, where students can just drop in. They don't need an appointment. They can stay for 5 minutes or 10 minutes or an hour if they need it. It's confidential. It's with one of our therapists, but it's not the same thing as coming into therapy. It's maybe, hey, I just got off the phone with my brother and I'm really missing my brother, what do I do? Not because they're severely depressed or anxious or something. So again, there's lots of options. I've left a sheet with a lot of our groups down there somewhere, I think. Perhaps we need some more. But they're accessible also online at any given time. The student can look up, or you all can look up, all these different ways students can formally come in and get support, or even do some of these drop-in, no appointment needed kind of sessions. Is that? Oh.
What remedies are in place if you have increasing friction with your roommate?
Great. Could you repeat the question?
That's a great question. So, do you want to take it? Me too?
So what are what remedies are in place when there is frequent friction, increasing friction? That does happen. In fact, it's often a team effort. Often the first group that hears about that is the Office of Student Life, which takes care of housing. And then the Office of Student Life often reaches out to other offices, either sometimes the chaplain's office if it's a very low level kind of friction, and sometimes someone just needs to talk it out. And if this becomes something a little bit more serious and more personal, IWS may deal with it. But often it's kind of analyzing how serious is it? Is it resolvable? If it's not resolvable, the school is very supportive in making sure the student has a safe space to continue their studies. So sometimes there's a room reassignment. But that's a very good question.
One just quick addition to that, the JAs who are assigned also can be helpful, especially for early on. They understand what it's like to first be moving in with someone you don't know and navigating some of that. The dean's office also is available to students. They're incredibly helpful at navigating these kinds of things. In general, they've heard most of these kinds of scenarios before. Some of them are not resolvable, right? So, the team here knows that, and some of them are. We also even will meet sometimes with roommates together if there's a way to work some things out. A lot of times what we find is that students just don't want to hurt each other's feelings and communicate, but if they can just communicate, a lot of that tension goes away. So what I would encourage is if your student is experiencing any kind of friction with the roommates, ask for help. Like ask for any of those people, the JAs, the deans, IWS, the chaplain's office, student life. Any of us is an okay entry point, and we'll get the student the kind of support that they need for that. And it's not unheard of. I mean, it happens. We're all people. If I just was put with any number of people in the room, we probably wouldn't get along either, but we'd try, right? So we'd reach out and try to help and support that in any way we can.
You mentioned about a while ago that 60% of the graduating senior utilize the IWS service. I mean, do you have any sort of stats for freshmen?
Yes, in general, we have about 30% of the student body seeing us each year. And it's generally, we see more first-year students and seniors than we do sophomores and juniors, but there's not a big difference between them. So, yeah, so really throughout their experience, people come in when they need to, and like I said, some use it the whole time.
So I guess most of the sessions are private and confidential. I mean, at what point will the parents be notified if there some serious issue that the parents need to be involved?
It's a great question.
Wendy, could you repeat the question for everybody?
Absolutely, thank you.
Yeah, so the question was about, first of all, usage around that the seniors, about 60% had, but what kind of percentage had the freshman class, and I addressed that. The other question was if there are serious issues that arise, at what point would the parents be notified? So there are a couple of different things. If the student is not involved in services with us, but for some reason starts struggling in some way, any number of people will bring that to the attention of the dean's office, okay? So it may be a campus safety officer that sees a student struggling, it could be a JA, it could be any number of people, and they will let the dean's office know. If this is a student that's never come to see us, hasn't initiated contact, the dean's office will contact us and see if the student would be willing to come in, talk with us, that sort of thing. If at any point the student expresses a desire to hurt himself or herself or themselves or someone else, or there's a real safety, that becomes a situation where we would potentially breach confidentiality of services and let the parents know. The dean's office will notify parents if there's any kind of risk to safety, like if your student goes to the hospital or something like that, the dean's office lets you know. For the therapy relationship, we have, by law, by our licenses, can only disclose information to parents in a very tight set of circumstances where there is explicit risk of harm to self or others, or they're just not able to be safe in their environment by themselves. The dean's office can tend to share other types of information as well, but in general, you will know if there's something that is of threat to your son or daughter.
I'm sorry? No, I was like, yeah. It's a great question. It's really
My question is related actually on the similar point. That because I think in one of the mails you mentioned that the student's medical information is confidential to the student, and that in the case of, say, extreme situation like hospitalization, or if parents want access to that information or decision making, then what are the recourses to that? And when scanning through various control websites, we came across a HIPAA form and a medical proxy, and we advised that in case the student is willing to allow the family access to her for his condition. So just want clarity of that, and what's the process that's involved to make that conclusive?
So, great question. So the question has to do with how to potentially gain access to information and what forms and what processes are in place. So if a student is potentially going to be in the hospital, how they can be a part of the decision making, that sort of thing. Am I representing that fairly? So there's a couple things. We are governed, there's a federal law that's called HIPAA that essentially means we have to have an adult, so anyone 18 or older's consent before we can share any kind of medical or mental health information, unless it is in a life-threatening situation. So what you have as an option for, as parents, is there's an emergency contact person who's listed for every student here, sometimes multiple emergency contact students. I would strongly encourage you to talk to your student if you haven't already. Make sure that you or someone you're comfortable with in your family is that emergency contact person, because that's who the dean's office will reach out to in any of these kind of emergent situations. Relative to ongoing health or mental health issues, there's some kind of complicated things there. If there's a health issue that you need to be actively engaged in with your student, let's say you have a chronic health issue that you've been actively engaged in with them, while we want them to become more and more independent, if there's ways that they want you involved in their medical care, by all means, have them sign off on that and express their wishes on those forms or through the health center site. When it comes to mental health services, I said it's kind of complicated. What we want to do is make sure at the end of the day that your student has access to the support that they need, right? So if there is any concern that your student has that says, if I go talk to someone, my parents are going to know everything that I say, it could potentially keep them from coming and accessing care, even though you probably don't necessarily want to know everything that they are going to say, but that could be a fear. And so what we want to do is try to decrease the barriers from them accessing care that they need. So as you have that conversation with your student about signing for confidential medical or mental health information, you may want to just explore that, to talk with them. You have to make the decision that's right for you and your family. Your son, your daughter needs to be able to make that decision. In general, we encourage parents to allow the students to be kind of the guide on that in terms of what they want to release. You can have confidence that if something very seriously, potentially life-threatening is going on, you're going to find out about it. But anything short of that, we really want there to be a trust between the students and our psychotherapy team so that they will tell us what's going on. They don't have to hold back for fear of being, having some of that information shared. But again, you have to make the decision that's right for you and your family, and your student really needs to. This is a situation where, depending on your own family values about this, to be able to say to them, I trust you to make your own decision. I encourage you to get the support you need. And I also will be your emergency contact if you want me to know things. Have an open conversation about that. Yes, ma'am.
Specific to medical, because you mentioned 18 and over. For those students who are not 18, how is that handled? How do they talk about having to get my permission or authorization?
Did you hear the question? This is a question about for students who are not yet 18 for medical.
So in that case, you would have to sign consent for them to be able to seek care. You can do that in advance. It doesn't have to be episodic. So I would encourage you, if you feel comfortable, to reach out to the health center and just say, look, my son or daughter is 17. So that's a great question. Thank you.
Valerie, I have more questions for you.
Okay.
Particularly in the first year, what are one or two of the common questions or concerns that bring students to the chaplain's office?
Okay. So the first couple of weeks is very exciting, but for many of the students, this is the first time away from home, and they're beginning to explore many aspects of their upbringing, and often people come to the chaplain's office asking questions that they never had an opportunity to ask, maybe about their faith. I get some of the most challenging questions in the first weeks because they ask some of the big questions that they didn't have access to, maybe some kind of clergy in the past. Some students are kind of wanting validation to step away from their faith, but still want to not necessarily step away, so they come for those kinds of conversations. Sometimes, because we are offering just a listening ear, sometimes they're talking about being homesick, or just missing their families, and that's a real thing. And you probably want to hear that they will miss you, and they do. But that's part of the process, and we support them as they are going through that first separation, and also encouraging them. We encourage them to actually keep in touch with all of you. You are the most important support for them during their time here at Williams, and we are here to help you maintain that connection while at the same time they are gaining a new independence.
Sometimes parents wonder if it's okay to tell their son or daughter, yeah, it's hard. It's hard not having you here, or I'm kind of sad. And yes, I'm having a good time doing this with your siblings, but I'm also sad. And I would really encourage you that, it sometimes is the case that the parents sort of pretending yeah, we're all fine. And the student's oh, everything's fine. And inside they're both oh, I just miss you. So to the extent that you feel comfortable in your own communications as a family, sort of sharing, again, it's that rich combination of things. This is a wonderful thing. It's an incredible developmental step. It's a journey that is been hard fought, right? They had to work hard to get here, and so did you. And it's a huge success to be at a top American college. They did it. You all did it. And it's wonderful and hard at the same time. And it's okay to be in that together, because then you get to be connected, right? You get to stay connected with them and with each other. And that is a kind of relational step forward for you too, as parent and child, that is new and can be very beautiful. And so I just encourage you all, again, to the extent that it fits with your family, be in it together. And we're here for both of you all, actually.
Let me answer in Spanish.
Sí.
Dependiendo en la parte deportiva,
Sí.
los muchachos tienen una lesión y más que la lesión física es la lesión mental. Ellos para recuperarse es muy difícil. Aquí hay un manejo especial para los deportistas.
The question is if the athlete gets hurt physically and even mentally, I don't know, concussion or something, if there is something that the coach has something that is helping them to recuperate in both cases. Sí.
Yes, so there is a whole team of athletic trainers and a sports physician also. And they work very closely with our health services and our mental health services team. So we work very, very closely together. So if it's an athletic injury or they're playing sports and they're having a psychological challenge of some kind, we work together with that athletic training team.
Es un equipo que está inclusive en uno de los cerca de donde están las canchas de básquetbol, donde los estudiantes, si están lastimados, pueden ir ahí, y es automáticamente. Cuando hay juegos siempre tienen también paramédicos donde les pueden ayudar. Y atletismo tiene su propio grupo, o sea que es más activo, más rápido, pero si no funciona, empiezan, se extienden al departamento de salud de aquí del colegio.
Mi pregunta va más relacionada a que el muchacho no va a pedir la asistencia. El departamento psicológico da la asistencia que el muchacho la pida.
If the student doesn't ask for the psychological help from the therapist, will you jump in and try to help? I mean, the group that is in athletics will let you know, and then you will help automatically, not waiting for the student to come to you.
It's a great question. So the athletic team screens for mental health issues like depression, anxiety, things like that. They have a screen. And so if they get to a level of concern about a student that they're very uncomfortable with and the student does not want to come see us, they would let the dean's office know, and the dean's office can ask the student to come in and see us. We do not go out and have students come in because we want students to voluntarily do that, but we do partner with both the dean's office and campus safety. If there's a very specific concern about a student's well-being, they sometimes will bring them to us.
Just on the same one, I mean, I understand that you pick up that there is some problem with the students if you know their history and you see a change in behavior. For these ones that are just coming in, even if they're I don't know what they're called, they're group leaders or something, what do you look out for when you don't have past history?
Oh, that's a very good question. With incoming students, if you don't have past history, and what do you look for?
Usually you say their grades dropped or they're not coming out, especially we did today, and then we spend hard to know how.
One, we help them understand how to care for themselves. There's a lot of training about self-care. So the students almost end up policing themselves, meaning they're realizing, oh, these feelings I'm having, after they've gone through the training or a workshop, they realize maybe I should go and ask for some help. So there's a lot of discussion about self-care here. And then, and from my observation, it's often the student who kind of initiates going to get some help, after they have gone to a workshop and realizing, yes, there's something off about my feelings, or I'm not adjusting as quickly as I should. And I will tell you, some of the students, are you okay? Some of the students who become like peer leaders are the ones in their first years who are so in tune with themselves in terms of self-care, that they will take the initiation in their first year, and then by their fourth year, they're the person who's helping other people. So the culture here at Williams is one that really encourages people to watch out for each other, do the self-care, and so that's where a lot of the first, without that past history, that's where we make that initial contact.
One thing to add to that too, part of the role of the EAF ventures that they're about to start, the wolf trips, the where am I, all these different kind of group experiences that they have a lot of days in a row of intense connections to start to build relationships and get to know each other some, so that people have eyes on each other, right? Like they start to make those connections, not just to build friendships, but also to start establishing how people connect. How do they interact? Do they need their time away? You know, how do they do? Also, the JAs who are with each of the entry systems for the first year students, they have snack, I think once a week on Sunday nights, where they get the whole group together to sort of see how people are doing and what's happening. And then also the faculty here work very closely with the dean's office and with our departments. If they see a student who, for example, isn't coming to class consistently, whether or not they know a history of if they did that before, that's concerning here. If students don't go to class here, faculty know immediately, and they will let people know because it's so unusual. So there's a lot of communication that goes on to really look at how is the student connected and how are they doing. And if anybody in the community has a concern, it's generally shared pretty rapidly with the appropriate department.
I think we have time for one more question if someone has one.
Based on your opinion for first years, what kind of problems do you tend to face and need help with?
The question is based on the experience of first years, what? Okay, so the question is, what do the first years tend to face and need help with? So that is a very big range of things. Students a lot of times feel very homesick. This may be the first time they've been away for a very long time. For students coming internationally, they miss their home culture, they miss their food, they miss their faith communities, they miss what feels familiar. For students who are here for the first time in a family's whole history, right? A first generation student coming in, they feel a lot of pressure that they don't want to disappoint their communities, they don't want to disappoint their families. They might feel like an imposter coming in, like, oh, they made a mistake somehow in accepting me to come in here. Everybody else is smarter than I am. They know bigger words than I do. They come in and they feel like they're unusual because they feel sad and they think everybody else feels happy. They're seeing everyone else's Instagram and Snapchats and everybody just looks like they're having a wonderful time, but they feel a sense of sadness or maybe emptiness in some way. They have been training their whole life because they were going to become a doctor, and oh my goodness, they just went to this art class that really lit them on fire, and are they going to disappoint their parents if they're not a doctor? The list goes on and on. They are exposed to relationships in a new way. They struggle with aspects of their identity. They wonder what in the world that the rest of us are doing that is happening with all of these different issues around racism and all of the problems that are going on right now in the country and globally around that. They come in with all of that, and it's intense and it's all welcome and it's all appropriate. Some of them have difficulty sleeping. They might have anxiety about class or about performing well. They're used to being the top in their class on everything. Let's face it, your students are bright. They are incredibly bright, and so is every other student here. And for the first time, they may not be the absolute standout. They're all standouts or they wouldn't be here, but they're having to navigate, oh my goodness, I got the third best grade. That's not happened ever, right? And it's serious and it's intense and it's just all a part of being a first year student. And we welcome all of it. So I hope that answers your question. But
that was your question too.
And that's just on a typical day.
Thank you both so much.